Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another intriguing session of ENG3E. That's English Workplace, Grade 11 English Workplace Preparation English, Term 2A, brought to you by WASA Distance Education Center. I am your instructor, Mike Laverty, and today's date is Wednesday, April the 5th, 2023. Today's class is number 30, and we are working on Unit B. Today we're looking at the culminating activity, Part B of the culminating activity. So yesterday we looked at the culminating activity as a whole, all the required elements and how many marks it's worth and all of that. And we looked at Part A, and then I did a live demonstration of creating an outline for that part of the assignment. So your culminating activity for Unit 5 is divided into Part A and Part B. So today we'll focus on Part B. And then if we have enough time, we can talk about, moving past an outline and getting some writing done for both of these and how we can edit and polish and make them even better. So here's some important dates to keep in mind. This is week 8 of term 2A. The WASA office is closed on Friday, April 7th, 2023 for Good Friday. So Good Friday is coming up this Friday. So most places in Sioux Lookout, and I'm sure it might be the case depending on which community you're in, are probably closed for the 4 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. But for sure, our office is closed on Friday and Monday. So Friday, April 7th, and we're closed on Monday, April 10th, which means there will not be a broadcast on Monday, April the 10th, 2023. Graduation day is June 15th, so it's coming up. So it might, especially if you're in Sioux Lookout, and if you look at the weather forecast, a big chunk of northern Ontario, it most definitely feels and looks like winter out there. There's a ton of snow. Things are kind of frozen and frigid and brutal, but spring is gonna get here at some point, and that graduation day is also going to arrive. So just want to give students a reminder that they have to have all of their coursework submitted and ready to get marked, and write that final exam before that June 15th date, right? And only then can you have your grades submitted and you can achieve a credit, right? But you've got to get it done before that very critical deadline of June 15th, 2023. So just have a quick look at our course schedule. We've got Unit 1 is wrapped up, Unit 2, Unit 3, Unit 4. We're very close to wrapping up Unit 5. And then we're looking at spending our last 4 classes together going over, I think the last 3 classes. So we'll only have 3 classes in week 9. That'll be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday next week. And during those 3 weeks, I would like to do some review for the final exam. So I'll prepare you for the final exam, and I'll do that by going over the key concepts of this course and trying to give you a snapshot of what to expect on that final exam. And I've mentioned this a few times. I won't be showing you the final exam questions, but what I will do is I'll give you some examples of types of questions you might get on the final exam. So I'm hoping that when you write your final exam, there's not too many surprises. It's going to be new content, and it's going to be questions you haven't seen before, but the whole point of the review is to make sure that you know what the skills are, you know what you're going to be tested on, and that goes for any course that you may find yourself in. You as a student have responsibilities, but the teacher has a lot of responsibilities too. They have an obligation to tell you what skills you need to have to pass a final exam. They need to prepare you for that in your classes, right? So, if I don't prepare my students for writing that final exam through my course material and my classes, then I'm not fulfilling my responsibilities, right? So, I will do my best to get you ready for that final exam. If you're listening to us online, thanks for tuning in at 91.9 FM. You can always phone in the studio at 1-807-737-4017, and you can phone us toll-free in the studio at 1-800-465-7144. You can also listen to us on Bell ExpressVu, channel 972, and you can log into the Zoom application on your phone, on a smart device, or on a computer. Once you've got Zoom open, you can join a meeting room. And my meeting room has a specific meeting ID, which most teachers do, and that is 417-6699-799. Any help, if you need any help with the Zoom link, just reach out to me or reach out to someone at the WASA office, either by sending us a Facebook message or phoning us or emailing us, and we will be sure to make sure you've got the information that you need. And if you can't listen to us live, then I know a lot of people are watching the YouTube videos. So just simply go to Laverty WASA on YouTube and check out those playlists. There is an ENG3E playlist, Term 2A, with all the videos in Term 2A. And I also have videos. I have a playlist for each unit. Okay, and moving right along, you can email me directly at mlaverty@nnecschools.org. That's MLAVERTY at nnecschools.org. You can find me on Facebook at Laverty WASA, LAVERTY space WHWAHSA. So look for Laverty WASA on Facebook. You'll find my professional Facebook account where we can exchange messages. And you can ask me questions, you can send me your assignments, whatever the case may be. Please phone the WASA office at 1-807-737-1488 or toll free at 1-800-667-3703. I'm at extension 2211. And you can also dial 0 if you're not sure who to talk to, and the receptionist will guide you to the appropriate person. If you've been taking this course for about 7.5 weeks, so if you're following along with my classes, then at this point you should have read or skimmed the study guides, units 1 through 4. You should have completed all the assignments from unit 1 to 3, completed most of the assignments from unit 4, and hopefully started working on assignments from unit 5. So just a general sense of where you should be, especially the fact that the first 3 units should be taken care of. If you've put in 7.5 weeks of work, that's about where you should be at. 3 units completely done, and then starting on units 4 and 5, and having a plan to get those taken care of. Okay. So we will talk about today's lesson. Article of the day. So we'll look at an article of the day on the 3rd day of the week. I like to pull up an article and discuss it, and I'm going to be connecting this article of the day with our culminating activity. My community, my home. So that's part B of the culminating activity. Your learning goals for today are to take notes on the required elements of the culminating activity and to review the writing process before drafting an outline for part B of your culminating activity. So you'll take notes on what you have to do, what needs to be completed to get full marks on these assignments. And I think, I haven't been teaching this course for a while, but I have noticed that most of the time it's not really the students' writing per se that may get them a low mark on an assignment. It's just simply that they haven't included all of the necessary elements, right? So you got to read the questions very carefully and just make sure you don't miss anything that the question is asking for. So Yeah, make sure you get all those essential parts taken care of. And then you'll review the writing process before drafting an outline for part B of the culminating activity. So again, we're talking about that writing process where step 1 we plan, step 2 we write, step 3 we revise, step 4 we edit, and step 5 we publish. So in the first step of the writing process, most people do some kind of brainstorming or outlining in some capacity. So they're trying to figure out how they're going to write. And then step 2, they just dive right in and produce as much content as they can. And so you're not writing and editing at the same time. You're just simply putting out content. Then step 3, the revision process, you look at what you've written and maybe change the order of it, give it a title, think about the big picture, organize it in some way. Step 4 is the editing, where you go line by line, word by word, letter by letter, and do like really fine tuning of it. And then you may jump back to step 1, do some more planning or do some more revising, and then steps 1 to 4 are going to repeat and cycle back on themselves a few times, and then eventually you'll feel ready. And a lot of writers explain that they never think that something is ready. A lot of creative people feel this way. A lot of songwriters, a lot of directors, stand-up comedians, they never feel like what they're working on is finished. But at the same time, at some point, if they want to get it out there, and if they want to share it, they've got to let go and just be like, okay, it's not done, but it's good enough. And so you have to come to that point and just get it out there. Your success criteria for today are to reflect upon your own experiences as a student and select several moments from your life to discuss. So your experience as a student and also your experience being from a community. So part A is more about your experience being a student, and part B is more about your experience being from a community. And then hopefully you can create an outline for part B, which is my community, my home. So with that in mind, I will bring up an article that was published a little more than 2 years ago by a famous Canadian journalist and writer, Tanya Talega. And she published this in the Globe and Mail, and it got a lot of attention in Sioux Lookout because that's where I'm from, and that's what the article was about. It got a lot of attention, and a lot of people were discussing this article. And the title of the article is "To See the True Picture of the First Nations Housing Crisis, Look to Sioux Lookout," published by Tanya Talega in the Globe and Mail on February 26, 2021. And the photo caption reads, "A welcome sign for Sioux Lookout, Ontario on April 23rd, 2018. Photo, Colin Perkle, The Canadian Press." I think looks to me like the North Highway, kind of coming into Sioux Lookout from the north, if I'm not mistaken. So there's our headline. To see the true picture of the First Nations housing crisis, look to Sioux Lookout. And I like to spend a bit of time breaking down these headlines. So the word to is a preposition. Words like to, for, from, under, over, during, while. So prepositions tell us where something happened or when they happened. To see, and to see is of course a verb. The is an article. English language has 3 articles: the, a, and an. So that's one of them. So we're looking at the true picture. So we're not just looking at the picture, we're looking at the true picture. So true is an adjective that modifies the noun picture. Of, another prepositions. The is of course an article. So to see the true picture of the First Nations, so that's a proper noun, capital F, capital N. Housing crisis, so it's not just a crisis, it's a housing crisis, right? So the word housing modifies crisis. Look to Sioux Lookout. So look, another verb. To is a preposition, and of course Sioux Lookout is a proper noun as it mentions a specific person, place, or thing. And we'll just have a look at some of the. It's a longer article, but this is the first two paragraphs. In a country like Canada, if you spend the night outside with temperatures dipping to minus 40 degrees Celsius, you die. And in Sioux Lookout, Ontario, 13 people without homes perished on the streets between the start of 2017 and the first quarter of 2018, according to the Kenora District Services Board, KDSB. 13 tragic deaths represent 1.6 per 1,000 of the population at the time. To put it in perspective, that percentage applied to the Greater Toronto Area would mean more than 9,400 deaths, says Henry Wall, the KDSB's Chief Administrative Officer. And his estimates don't even figure in the larger cities of Kenora or Dryden. This is what a First Nations housing crisis looks like. And these numbers, which seem small but mean so much more, has allowed inaction to fester into unnecessary deaths that are too often callously overlooked, right? So, callously that's a great word, and when someone is callous, they don't have emotion, they're indifferent, they just sort of look the other way. Focusing on the following two lonely souls from Mr. Wall's list of 13 should fill you with woe and anger and make you question humanity, not to mention Canada's colonial social structures that have allowed Indigenous people to be constantly treated as lesser. Both have no names, no identity, no ages. One is male, one is female. They are presumed, quote, to be from northern communities. So it's a very well written piece. It's very dark. It's very stark. It's very kind of shocking, and I think it's meant to be, right. And I think she's writing this article for people who aren't really familiar with the North. I think the audience for the piece would definitely be for people living in Southern Ontario who are just not familiar what life is like living up in the North. And I chose the article because I googled Sioux Lookout on the Globe and Mail, or I searched for Sioux Lookout on the Globe and Mail's website, and that's the article that came up. So I think it's really important to, when we're writing about the place that we're from and we're writing about our community, and this is right in the assignment guidelines, it doesn't always have to be the positive things, and you can talk about the negative aspects of your town. And then maybe you could also talk about how some of those issues can be dealt with. And I think it can certainly feel like these problems will never go away. And I think if you grow up here and you just see it all the time, you might sort of get defeated and feel like the problem's always going to be here, or it's going to get worse and it's way bigger than me, and what can I do to help? But I think if you're telling the story of Sioux Lookout, then you certainly can't tell it without, talking about homelessness and that crisis that is tragically affecting, way too many people in this town. So, with that being said, we'll go on to the culminating activity. This first slide is the general description of the assignment. So, this activity will be the final one you'll be completing for this course, and your task is as follows. You will have the opportunity to reflect upon the fictional reading selections examined during this course, involving a variety of characters and situations, including workplace, and also non-fictional reading selections, which have focused mainly on preparations for the workplace. You will also be reflecting upon your own situation in life to the present time and being prepared for, quote, what the future holds. So yesterday we looked at part A, and that is your personal assessment, where you're talking about your own education and your own success. And we looked at that quote, having a good education is a key to success in life. And so do you fully agree with the statement? So it was really based upon that. And then, so I broke it down into 3 parts. So for this assignment, you had to comment on that phrase, having a good education. Having a good education is a key to success in life. Then you had to comment on what it means to be successful and the role in which education has played for you. And then at the end, you sort of offer your thoughts on the future in regards to whether or not you want to attend a post-secondary level college or university once you have finally, achieved your goal of graduating with a high school diploma, which is a very admirable and amazing thing to achieve and do. But today we're going to focus on part B. Actually, before we do that, I will pull up a screen share and just heard a song on the radio and I can't get it out of my head. Let's see. Let's get my assignment open here. So I've got my culminating activity. Right. So I'm going to share this. I'm going to share what I did yesterday. So yesterday I looked at part A and I created myself an outline, and it was a pretty basic outline. It started with a notebook page where I broke down what that part A was asking me to do, and then by doing that I could see that it was really asking me to comment on on three things, right? And I've already mentioned these, right? So commenting on the quote, having a good education is a key to success in life. What it means for me to be successful in the role in which education has played or plays for you. And then paragraph 3 is, my plans for the future, if any, right? My post-secondary plans. And of course, I have already graduated high school, so for this one, I talked about some post-secondary plans that I do have, because I do plan on taking some courses, starting I believe next week, right? I've been very busy. I really got to get on top of that, but I keep waiting for my introductory email from from Queen's University to tell me what I have to do and when I have to start doing it. So I've got that taken care of. So, but what I want to do today is we're going to open up a new document. We're going to open up a new Word document, and I'll sort of copy this format. And we'll do the same for part B. So before we do that, we'll have a look at part B and just see what it's asking us to do. So culminating activity, part B, my community, my home. From time to time, you have most likely heard and have spoken the expressions, "There's no place like home," and "Home is where the heart is." These expressions have been with us for a long time, and they certainly stir up fond memories and warm feelings of where we were born, where we have grown up, and or where we are now. On occasion, for some people, the place where they have grown up, at least, does not mean fond memories and warm feelings, right? So just want to mention that, right? So it's, you don't have to pretend like the home you grew up in or the community you grew up in was perfect and is amazing and it's like everything was amazing and everything was fine, but you just gotta have an honest sort of like look at where you grew up, or maybe sometimes people they're born in a certain place and then they move on to a different community, but when you think about your community, my home, what's the place you think of? That's the place that you should be writing about. So for this assignment, you are to develop an essay using the steps of the writing process, keeping this theme in mind. It will be a discussion of your journey from the time you were born until now, with the focus being on your home community. In your essay, you will be describing memories and feelings you have had of your home community and your place in it. Do you see yourself remaining at home, or do you see yourself moving on at some point to discover new things? In your essay, you will also comment on what you would like to see happening in your home community in the future and why it would be important for the residents. So, looking at this, we can see the key questions, okay? So in your essay, you will be describing in memories. So I would say that's number 1, is describing memories and feelings you have had of your home community and your place in it. Number 2, do you see yourself remaining or moving? And number 3, I would say, talking about things that you would like to see happen or things you would like to see put in place in your home community and why that would be important, right? So I would divide that into, three main parts that you've got to explain in your essay. So the essay length, you're going to do a draft, a rough copy, and that'll be about 2 pages handwritten. Everybody has different handwriting, and some people write really big, and some people write very, very fine, tiny little letters, right? So it all depends on how big your writing is and how much space you put in between the words and between each line and paragraph. There's a lot of variables there, but I would say that your rough copy and your final copy should be about 350 to about 500 words. Now, everybody's different, but most people, if you tell them to write on a single piece of, say, loose leaf paper, they're probably going to write a couple hundred words down, maybe 250, somewhere in that range, right? And then when you type all those words up, it's going to be, it's going to be about a page and a half, depending if you single space it or double space it. So that's what you're looking at there. And same with same with part A. You have to do an evaluation. Sorry, your work will be evaluated, and you need to do a title page. And the title page will include a picture or sketch, your name, the course, and a date. And that's going to be worth 5 marks. 20 marks is going to be your rough copy. It's got to be handwritten, and it's got to show some evidence of revising and editing. So that's important too, right? So your final copy, your rough copy, it needs to show some evidence of revising and editing, right? So, and if you're doing this digitally, you might be able to, you can cross out the words. I mean, it's easy to do this with an actual handwritten copy. So what you might want to do is you can track changes in a Word document or on Google Docs, and that works to an extent. Sometimes it can get kind of messy, but you might want to just, like, if you're doing it on a computer, you might want to just print it off and then mark up the actual copy itself with a pen and then take a picture of that. Or you could just hand in 2 or 3 drafts, and then as a teacher I can see. All you have to do is just prove and demonstrate that you did develop your writing through a series of drafts, right? That's really what we're looking for here. I need to see evidence of your revisions and how you've changed your work. So that's 20 marks for the rough, and then of course 25 marks for your final copy, with a combined total of 50 marks. Part A is worth 25 marks for a grand total of 75. And this culminating activity is worth 10% of your final grade in this course, right? So the culminating activity in Unit 5 is worth a large chunk of marks. It's 10% of your final grade. All right, so let's dive into this and kind of do what we did yesterday and just think about these 3 things. So describing memories and feelings and your place in it. So I'm going to open up my Word document. Here we go. So my outline for culminating activity part B. And this is my community, my home. And I'm not going to divide them into paragraphs just yet. I'm just going to do part 1, because my essay is going to have 3 parts to it. Whoops. So I've got part 1, I've got part 2, and of course I've got part 3. Yeah, and that's not, well, that's kind of misleading because it kind of makes it seem like that's actually how it's going to be written, but it's, I don't know another word for it, requirement or component. Oh, we'll just stick with part. It works for now. So part one is going to be my memories and feelings growing up in my community. And let's have a look here. Number two is, do you see yourself remaining at home or do you see yourself moving on to discover new things? Okay, so that's, I need to answer that. That's, do I see myself moving on, from this community for new experiences? Then the third part of the question, it asks you, can I think of anything that, you know, our community needs, now to make it better. And I think, if you truly care about the place you're from, if you really do care about your community, then part three should come pretty easily, right? You could, especially if you've got kids, or if you're bored, or if you feel stuck and there's like not much to do, then I'm sure you can think of some things that should be in your community now that could make it better, right? So it's really about looking at the past and how you grew up in a community and all your memories of staying there and all that kind of thing, right? So with that in mind, we got just about 20 minutes here. We'll start getting some writing in. So your outlining process can be fairly extensive depending on the writing project that you're working on, you know, and then maybe you know uh, as I mentioned, that writing process, step one is planning. Step two is, maybe I'll just very briefly just talk about that, right? So, step one is where we plan, we outline, we daydream, we brainstorm. Step two is where we write. Step three is where we revise. Step four is where we edit. And step five is where we publish. And step five, I like to sort of separate it from the other steps because it is a separate step, right? It's the final step. It's the one that you take when you feel that your writing is, it's ready to go. So it's usually like the last step that somebody would take in that writing journey, right? So when we plan and outline and daydream and brainstorm, we're just trying to envision how our document's going to play out, how it's going to be written, the parts of it, just a very basic loose idea for what it's going to be. This process could be compared to like storyboarding, right? So like this is before someone shoots a movie, or they capture any footage for a movie or a TV show. They might storyboard it and just do like stick figures or very rough sketches of what's going to happen. And then when we write, we produce content, without without a filter. That's the best way I can think about step two is you just simply produce content and don't really think about whether it sounds right or whether it makes sense. You just simply write. And then step three, the revision process. This is organization, titles, paragraph order. This is big picture. And then the editing process is, the best way I can say it is line by line, word choice, cutting words, sentences, maybe, sentences, adding a word, It's it's zooming in, right? So revising is the big picture. Step 4, editing is like zooming in on the work, and then publishing is sending it for marking, or sharing. It's just, or sharing with others / the public, right? So just getting it out there. So that's what we're looking at today. Right, so I've got my basic outline here. I know kind of more or less where I want to take this thing, and I've got my 3 parts where I need to sort of slot my writing in. And that's what I'd like to do with you today. I'm just going to start writing and just sort of see what happens. Maybe do 5 minutes for each one and just sort of speak out loud and let you know what I'm thinking and what things come to my mind, right? Okay. And so we'll start with the first one, which is my memories. So my memories and feelings growing up in my community. So that's I'm just going to start writing. So, I was born and raised in Sioux Lookout, Ontario. I grew up in this community, and now I am, because I'm always thinking about things through the eyes of my kids these days. I've been a dad for 12 years, right? So I grew up in this community, and now I am the proud father of 2 boys, who are now growing up here. My mother was born here, and my father moved here when he was in high school. All right, so I've got something there. So I was born and raised in Sioux Lookout, Ontario. I grew up in this community, and now I am the proud father of 2 boys who are now growing up here. So I might not use all this stuff, and I might kind of repeat myself, but these are the first things that sort of come to mind. I have lived in 2 cities. That would be Windsor, Ontario, and Winnipeg, Manitoba. So I somehow managed to live in 2 cities that started with a W. So I have lived in those 2 cities, but I consider Sioux Lookout to be, it's both my home and my community. And then, I think that, I think some of the things that come to my mind are how what my sense of community was like when I was younger versus, what it is like now. And I think that, that's probably what I would talk about is, I now see my community, through the eyes of our boys, and want this to be a place where they are supported, and can thrive. I am also aware of of the many, social issues facing this community, and both, want to protect them from that, from them, but also, um, encourage them to find solutions and help make things better. All right, so that's just a whole bunch of writing, and I'm trying to write it as fast as I can and not really process it, just sort of get it out there. The part two is do I see myself moving on from this community for new experience, and then I'm gonna change that. What are my I phrase them as questions, right? And then I'm almost like, in a sense, I'm interviewing myself. So I'm sort of like pretending that like I'm a guest on a podcast, or I'm the guest on an interview TV show, or somebody's interviewing me for a magazine or something like that. So I find it helpful to pose it like a question. What are your memories? What are your memories of growing up in your community? Do I see myself moving on? So I'm just going to answer them. And so, and I do sometimes thinking about moving to another community. And mostly, I do this, when I think about, providing opportunities for our boys, right? So just thinking about the things they can do in this community, that the things they can engage with, the things they can do, and I've got our youngest boy is learning how to play guitar in a music program. He's in karate. He just started doing wrestling. Our oldest boy, mostly, his extracurriculars are about, hockey. He's very much into hockey, and that's his thing. And so, you kind of wonder if you'd had the same opportunities or better ones in a large city. But at the same time, I really do, and maybe I'll type that down. I really do love, you know, living in a small, town. I like that I could, I could easily, you know, walk. I could easily walk to work, or walk. I could easily walk to work, or bike. We are surrounded by thousands of fresh lakes and beautiful forests, right? So there's all that, right? So that it's hard to give that up. I do like cities. I do like going to concerts. It'd be cool to live in Winnipeg and go see Jets games all the time and go see concerts. But it's about a 4-hour drive to Thunder Bay, 4.5, 5-hour drive to Winnipeg. It's not that far. It's far enough, but that's the one thing I do. So you know, um, I I think my wife talks about, in brackets, or considers moving more than I do, and it's something we do talk about. It's something we do talk about slash consider. Sometimes that's a useful sort of practice when you're writing. You just sort of this slash that, and you're sort of like, I don't really know how to phrase it, but this'll do for now, right? So, and then the last thing is, can I think of anything that our community needs now to make it better? And then for sure, I can think about things like that. You know, this community needs more housing. You know, both for people who need it urgently. In brackets um, such as the homeless or those with disabilities, etc. So this community needs more housing, both for people who need it urgently, and for those who want to make a home here. I think Sulakaut is, we call ourselves the hub of the North, and we provide medical and educational services to thousands of people living in Northern Ontario on First Nations communities, and that's sort of become our industry. Where we were typically going back in time to when I was born, where Sulakaut was more of a it was more of a tourist and lumber mill kind of a feel to it, right? That was the primary industries. That's how people made money. And since the 40 years or so that I've been in this town or on this earth, there's definitely been a shift to that service economy, and I think that Sulakaut's definitely had some. Oh, excuse me. Sorry, I couldn't mute my sneeze there. I apologize. I almost did. Um, but Sulakaut has had lots of growing pains, just from being that kind of industrial, kind of like railway, CN, lumber mill sort of economy to providing a service economy and looking after people as they come to Sulakaut. And so I think Sulakaut's definitely in a transition mode, and organizations like the hospital and the Sulakaut First Nations Health Authority, for example, and the Maniawan Health Center, they are by far the primary employers in our community. They employ more than anybody else, right? So, then that's kind of what I think that our community needs to make it better. I think and I'm not saying that no one out there is doing this, and this is just something I've come up with. These aren't my ideas. I've heard these ideas from other people, and I agree with them. But I think Sulakaut needs to kind of figure out what it is trying to be, and maybe what it should be. A fully functioning homeless shelter, and addictions treatment center are certainly key aspects of making this a better place to live. And I think we also need to develop our, I don't know, like our creative outlets slash organizations to develop strong and innovative programming for young people. And then just, and so I'm just thinking about like the visual arts, music, drama, video production, photography, etc. Right? So that's kind of what I would like to see, right? So if I go up to my, if you're working on a Word document, and if you go up to your review, I've got 363 words here, right? Some of these words are, of course, the stuff that I kind of wrote to myself. So there's 36. Yeah, but I've got about 300 words there, right? And then, but I'm probably not going to use them all. But they give me a starting point. They give me a place, like they give me a jumping off point. And as we did with part A, I think that what you should do, and I think that, I think tomorrow we will sort of pull these, we will sort of look at these two documents, and then I'll walk through how we can organize them, and how we can sort of look for, certain sentences that stand out to us. So maybe just now I'll just sort of like read back what I have. So I was born and raised in Sulacott, Ontario. I grew up in this community, and now I am the proud father of two boys who are now growing up here. My mother was born here, and my father moved here when he was in high school. I have lived in two cities, Windsor, Ontario, and Winnipeg, Manitoba. But I consider Sulacott to be both my home and my community. I now see my community through the eyes of our boys and want this to be a place where they are supported and can thrive. I am also aware of the many social issues facing this community and both want to protect them from them but also encourage them to find solutions and help make things better. So after reading that paragraph, I like this. I'm just going to highlight it. This whole idea of, seeing this community through my boys' eyes and wanting them to be part of a town that they feel, supports them. And so maybe I bolded it and underlined it, right? So I would probably tweak that sentence and make it a little stronger, but the idea is there, and that's the one that stands out to me the most. Part two is, do I see myself moving on from this community? I do sometimes think about moving on to another community, and mostly I do this when I think about providing opportunities for our boys. I really do love living in a small town. I like that I could easily walk to work or I could bike there. So I'm just going to underline this part about, we are surrounded by thousands of fresh lakes and beautiful forests. And then the final one is, this community needs more housing, both for people who need it urgently, such as the homeless, those with disabilities, and for those who want to make a home here. I think Sulacott needs to figure out what it is trying to be and what it should be. Okay, and I'm going to highlight that sentence, right? So and that's one of the parts of the writing process that I find the most enjoyable. Especially, if it's something I really regret in life, is not journaling more and writing down my experiences, because when I do go back and I read a journal from like 10 years ago, it's incredible, because you just forget all these things that were so important to you back then, and they're not important to you now, but they really document how you felt in that moment. And sometimes you even write something down, and then you look at it 2 weeks later, and you're like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. That's cool. And that's like, when you come back to something you've written, you start to pull out little pieces, right? So, but I find that what usually happens is you make an outline, you start to fill in the blanks, you start to produce content, and then you go back and you reread what you wrote, and then you highlight like the sentences that stand out to you. So for me, I'm gonna take those three ideas and expand upon them. So I'm gonna expand upon this idea of me seeing my community through the eyes of my kids. I'm gonna expand upon growing up around nature and being part of like a really pristine part of the world. And I'm gonna talk about this whole like idea of Sulacott figuring out what it needs to be and what it should be, right? So those three ideas weren't really in my mind when I sat down to write this today, right? I didn't really know those were there, but now I do, and I can come back and I can make them better. And that is what we will do tomorrow. So thank you for tuning in, and we will pick it up tomorrow.